Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, karibu sana. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for the love, thank you for the support, thank you for always coming back and choosing to consume my content. So like you've seen in today's video, we're going to talk about vaccination, everything all about vaccination. So yeah, without missing so much time, let's get into details about it. When it comes to vaccination in Kenya, we have two programs that exist. We have the KP vaccines and then we have the private vaccines. The KP vaccines are vaccines that are supplied by the government, which they only cover major diseases that can cause damaging effects to the child. Things like tetanus, things like polio, things like whooping cough, pneumococcal, yeah, name them. That's what they basically cover, which only goes for 6 weeks vaccination, 10 weeks, 14, and then again the baby will be immunized at 9 months and at 18 months. That's what it contains, the KP vaccination. Coming to the private vaccines, these are vaccines that are not, they are almost the same like the government ones for the 6 weeks, the 10 weeks, and the 14 weeks. But the difference comes in because these are private vaccines, there are others that are not covered by the government, but they are well good for your baby to protect against some diseases, things like meningitis, things like cholera, things like typhoid. Those are only found in the private vaccines. They're not found in the KP vaccine. So if you're taking your baby for vaccination and you're going to a public facility, you're only going to find the KP vaccines. If you're going to private, there are some privates that do basically only private vaccines, and there are some private hospitals that are going to give you the KP vaccines and also the private, which now the difference comes in is in terms of cost. For the private vaccines, they're usually a little bit expensive and some insurances do cover them, others they don't. For the KP vaccine, if you're going to a public facility, it's usually free of charge. But if you're going to a private hospital and you're going to be getting the KP, if you're visiting a private hospital, make sure you find out if they are offering the KP vaccines or they are offering only the private ones, so that if maybe your insurance does not cover, you're not ending up going from that hospital to another one. It's also hectic moving up and about with the baby and choosing another different hospital. So before you choose an hospital, make sure you know, is it providing both vaccines, or if your card covers all of the vaccines. Again, make sure you call the hospital prior you visit. Sometimes like these private vaccines, they are out of stock, and maybe the day you have scheduled they are not in stock. So you go, your baby was supposed to be immunized and then there are no vaccines, so you're rescheduled for another day, or you have to go to another hospital looking for the same vaccines. So those are some of the things that you put into consideration when you're preparing yourself to go to take your baby to the hospital for vaccination. Another thing, so there are some of the myths that exist here in Kenya regarding vaccinations. Like vaccines do induce diseases and the baby is immunized. Like my baby was immunized and then they got sick. There is no sickness that comes up after immunization unless the baby was sick prior immunization, and it's usually highly discouraged. If your baby is sick, your baby does not get immunized. They'll actually even check the baby's temperature and assessment to make sure that your baby is not sick before immunization. So vaccines do not induce any illness unless your baby was sick before. So let's demystify that. Another myth to demystify, some people usually advise others before you're going to the clinic, make sure you give your baby paracetamol syrup so that when they are immunized, they don't feel pain and they don't have fevers. Fevers are very okay to have because how will you know the vaccine is working if it's not going to give your baby that fever? Actually, the fever is an indicator that the vaccine that you got is good. It was stored in the good condition and it's working. Yeah, so do not give paracetamol. You cannot be taking a painkiller to prevent an upcoming headache. I don't know whether that makes sense. You'll only give paracetamol, which is even discouraged nowadays. It's reducing I'm lacking a word to explain this, how the vaccine is going to work when you're taking paracetamol. It reduces that working. Another myth to demystify, application of menthol at the point that the baby has been injected. You shouldn't massage that area with any oil or even menthol or I don't know what other things people use. Avoid touching that area, avoid massaging it, leave it as it is. Another myth, people advise others to apply onion juice to decide that the baby has been immunized. I don't know how that works. I don't know it's a pain management strategy or what it is, but please don't apply any of those things. Any other myth, that site is not supposed to be applied anything, it's not supposed to be massaged. Leave it as it is. If your baby has been immunized today on Monday at 12 midday, by tomorrow 12 midday, if it's fevers, they subside and the baby comes back to normal. If it is irritability, it goes away. So you don't have to do any extra thing. The only thing you have to do is to manage your fevers at home. And how do you do this? Expose your baby, that is undressing the baby, leaving them with light clothes because already they're having a fever, their temperatures are high, and the body is like if you touch them, they're very hot. So reduce the clothes. If you're in a closed area, open the windows. If you have a fan, switch it on, but very low, okay? So apart from that, you can also temperature sponge your baby. This is where you use a wet cloth. You wipe your baby all over the body. By doing this, the baby loses the excess heat. You can also breastfeed to calm the baby. You know, babies find soothing when they're breastfeeding. So breastfeeding, and then the last thing, if only it's really needed, that is when you're going to give paracetamol. The Panadol baby and infant, or whatever paracetamol syrup you're having. That's the last option. Always do this other management, the non-medicinal management of fevers. If the fever persists, that is the point you're going to give the Panadol baby and infant. Yeah, another thing, what are you supposed to take to the hospital when you're visiting the facility? Always carry an extra pair of clothes, an extra diaper, wet wipes, and what do we call it? These liners, yes, they're liners. This is for instance, if you're visiting a public facility or even a private facility, I always advise it's not every healthcare worker will have the time when you've placed your baby on the weighing scale to start wiping it and disinfecting it. Others, they'll be in a hurry and they'll tell you to place your baby there, have your weight checked. And remember, not every mother who is so hygienic when it comes to their babies. Some come with skin conditions and you can easily get that from there because when you're in contact with the same weighing scale that was there, you never know the hygiene status of the mother. So that is why it's advised to carry your own liner, place it on the baby weighing scale, place it on the height board so that when your baby is measured, they're not in direct contact with that. And I think I've discussed everything that we need to know about vaccination. For the private vaccines, we have a wide variety. Vaccines that cover against cholera, vaccines that cover against typhoid, vaccines that cover against meningitis, rabies, there is the human papilloma virus that causes cancer. Before I forget, make sure your children, if you're doing the KP vaccines and you're finished at 18 months, you can add these other private vaccines that are required. Things like flu for school-going children, things like cholera, things like typhoid, and what else? Yeah, and the Cervarix vaccine, it's usually free of charge in the government vaccines to protect the girls against cervical cancer. And for private vaccines, we have two strains. We have the Cervarix and the Gardasil. So it's up to you, the one that you prefer most. Make sure your girls are immunized, and not only girls, the girl and the male child, they are immunized at age from 9 to 14 and 15 and above before they are introduced into sexual intercourse. So I think that's it for today. My baby is crying. She was sleeping. So till next time, adios.